and welcome to my channel. If you're new, I'm Adrian and Kiwi is my parrot. If you're not new, thanks for coming back. So today I'm gonna give you guys a tutorial on how I made this little fruit bunny. Now this pattern is originally a free pattern on the Premiere website. However, I came across some things that I had to modify to be able to complete him. So in the description box, I will link the free pattern on the Premiere website, and then if you're interested in looking at that, but I'm going to show you guys how I made this bunny, because there are rows that I took out, there are rows that I added, there are rows that I did completely different to make the pattern make sense, because I had a lot of trouble getting this little guy finished. But I think he turned out all right. You guys can let me know in the comments below what you think. Now, I did not color control him, obviously. The original pattern, one thing to note with the original pattern is the pictures in the pattern show bunny rabbits that are color controlled. I did not realize that I needed to color control until I was halfway through the body, and then it dawned on me that's why the body's not all one color, because in the pattern asks you to have 2 cakes of the Premier Parfait Chunky Fruits so that you can color control. I actually bought extra thinking that one bunny rabbit was going to take up 2 cakes. But if you don't color control and you just let the yarn play out as it may, you can actually make one bunny with 1 cake of yarn. I had just enough. You can see this is what I had left of the orange cake. I just took it and wrapped it around the other orange cake that I had. So you can get 1 full bunny out of one of these cakes if you don't color control. So that is one thing to note, whether or not you want to color control or not. But basically the idea of this video is just to show you guys the modifications that I made to that pattern to get this bunny rabbit. I know that there's been people that have tried to make this bunny and have gotten frustrated, particularly with the ears. I modified those completely and still kind of got the same thing that they have in the picture. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of this video. It's not necessarily my pattern, but I did modify it, if that makes sense. Like I don't want to take credit for a pattern that's not mine, but I did change some things to make it easier to understand. There were some things in the written pattern that were just not written well, where people could understand. So yeah, and hopefully Premiere doesn't get mad at me. If Premiere sees this, don't get mad at me for making modifications. I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the pattern, and so I had to fudge my way through this guy. And I've had people ask me about it, so yeah, this is my little orange bunny. We're gonna set him, I don't know, somewhere. We're gonna put him somewhere for the moment. So I am going to be using Premier Parfait Chunky Fruits. I'm not going to color control, so I'm just going to probably be using the 1 cake. It's a super bulky 6, and just like in the written pattern, I'm going to be using a 5.5 millimeter hook. And so yeah, so you can see that my dragon fruit bunny is going to start out this color. But anyways, guys, I'm going to get the camera turned around, and we'll get started. Alright, guys, so I'm going to be using the Premier Parfait Chunky Fruits, which is a super bulky 6 and a 5mm hook. And then instead of scissors, I am going to be using this candle lighter to singe the ends of the Chanel to try to limit, I don't know if you guys can see that, but basically it will melt the ends so that it will not shed quite as much. I'm gonna need 1 stitch marker, I think. I think I only need 1 stitch marker for the moment. Later we'll need some straight pins. So there's all that. I will most likely be throwing the rows up on the screen for you guys to follow. If you guys want to pause it and follow it that way, you can. Oh, there's going to be so much yarn barf. I know it. See, like the whole center is yarn barf. Alright, let's see if we can get the center pull now. Alright, there we go. So, to start out with, we are going to make our slip knot. We're going to be making the body first. We're going to make a slip knot, and we are going to chain 2. Now, in this second chain from your hook, you're going to place 12 single crochet. I know that seems like a lot, and there is a trick to that. So we want to go ahead and place our first single crochet like this, and then I'm going to take this stitch marker. For me, it's just a safety pin, and I'm going to slip that in there and mark that first single crochet. I'm going to try to put at least 6 single crochet before this knot here, and then I'll do the other 6 on the other side. So I've already got 1. So the reason we mark this stitch right here, this first single crochet, is so that it doesn't disappear underneath the stitches that we're fixing to put in. And 12. So that's the 12, the first round is just 12 single crochet into that first stitch, and you'll get something that looks like this. I don't think I can zoom in any further. So what I like to do, because that first stitch is already marked, I like to slip into that stitch before I remove my stitch marker. That way I can see where it's at. Just like that. And so without doing a slip stitch or anything, we're just working in a spiral. We are going to place 1 single crochet in the first stitch, and we'll go ahead and mark this stitch as well, just to make sure that we don't lose our beginning stitch. In the next stitch, we're going to place an increase. And we're just going to continue doing that all the way around. You should end up with 18 stitches around. Alright, so we've got 18 stitches. And you'll notice that there might be a small little hole. That's not going to matter too much. You know, it'll be fine. I've got... The reason we do it this way is to prevent the yarn from coming to a cone. If you do 6, you know, stitches in, say, a magic ring, it will turn into more of a cone shape than that flat rounded shape that you want. So for the next several rows, we're just going to be placing increases. So for this round, we're going to do 2 single crochet, and I'm actually going to put my stitch marker in the side of my first stitch instead of in the top of it. That way when I get back around, I know that this is my first stitch, but I can keep working without moving it up every single row. So we're going to do two single crochet, and then we're going to do an increase. And we're going to work that all the way around. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just continue with increase rounds just like that. We just did 2 single crochet and then an increase. Now we're going to be doing 3 single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to keep doing that for each row until we are at 8 single crochet and then an increase. I will put that on the screen for you guys so that you can see it. But by the end of row 9, you should have 80 stitches, and you should be working 8 single crochet and then an increase. Now, if your piece starts to get too hexagonal, if it's got a weird hexagonal type of shape, what you can do is on the even rounds, do, for example, 4 single crochet and then increase. On that specific round, you would do 2 single crochet, then increase, and then do 4 single crochet. And what that does is that offsets your increases so that your piece will be less hexagonal. That was the word I was looking for. But by row 9, you're going to want to have 60 single crochet, and you're going to be doing, for row 9, you'll be doing 8 single crochet with an increase. Like I said, I'll put that up on the screen for you guys to see. Alright guys, so I'm back. This is what my bunny body is looking like. So this is what it looks like after the increase rounds. So for the next 9 rows, so rows 10 through 18, we're just going to be placing 1 single crochet in each stitch around. We're going to be building that body up. And I like I said, I like to put my stitch marker in the side of my first stitch. That way I can keep going without having to move my stitch marker up each row. And I think I might get at least most of my bunny rabbit in this color. I wish that they made, I wish Premier had, you know, like a color of yarn that was just like this. But then again, if they did that, then there wouldn't be any need for color controlling. But anyways, guys, I am going to do my 9 rounds of single crochet, and then I will meet back up with you guys. Alright guys, so here is what my bunny body looks like after 9 rows of just single crochet. We're going to go ahead and start our decrease rounds now. I will be putting those on the screen for you. But for my even rounds, I like to split up the single crochets. So what I mean by that is, our first decrease round is going to consist of 8 single crochets and then a decrease. I like to do, for example, I like to split them up like 1, 2, 3, 4. I do the first 4. I'm going to go ahead and move this stitch marker up. So there's the first 4 single crochet, and then I'm going to go ahead and decrease. Just like that. And I don't remember if I said this earlier, but it's just a way of offsetting your decreases so they're not sitting right on top of each other. I'm going to go ahead and do 8 single crochet and then a decrease all the way around until I get back over here. When I get back over here, I'll have 4 single crochets left, which is actually the 4 that goes with the starting 4 that I made over here. So you can do your even decrease rounds like that if you want to. You don't have to. But like I said, that's just how I like to do it. Alright guys, so I am back. We're still working the bunny body up in height. So our last row was 5 single crochet and then 1 decrease. I marked this stitch here, which was the beginning of our decrease rounds. So that was 8, 7, 6, 5. So I have completed the first set of decrease rounds. So now what we're going to do is we are going to be doing 3 rounds of single crochet. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put the next couple of rounds on the screen for you guys. And I will meet back up with you when I get to probably when I get to round 27. Alright guys, so this is what we have after round 26, which was 4 single crochet and 1 decrease all the way around. You should have a total of 30 stitches in your stitch count. So for rounds 27 through 29, again, we are just going to be doing 1 single crochet in each stitch around. We don't have too many more rows or rounds to go for the body. Now, row 30 is going to be our last decrease round. And it is going to be 3 single crochets with 1 double crochet. And then we're going to add 1 more row, round 31, which will be 1 round of 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So I'm going to go ahead and work these last couple of rows up. Alright guys, so here is what the body looks like after working the last couple of rows. You should have something that is pear-shaped. We're going to go ahead and fasten off leaving a long tail for sewing. So I'm going to slip stitch here, pull this up, and I'm going to leave a pretty good substantial amount for a tail, just because it is chenille yarn and it's going to get fluffy and start falling apart when I go to sew with it. So I have this candle lighter, which is what I like to use for singeing the ends and cutting the chenille yarn, especially if I know I'm going to be sewing with it, and it will affect the audio on the camera, but you can cut it with scissors and singe it with a lighter if you want, or you could just cut it and hope for the best, but since we're sewing, it will be easier if you singe the end of it. And it makes things super easy. Now, if you feel like stuffing your body now, you can, but I'm gonna wait. I prefer to wait until I have more pieces to put together. And we're gonna jump into crocheting the head. Now, the first 7 rows are exactly the same as they were for the body. So we're going to start off with a slip knot and a hook, or a loop on our hook. We're going to chain 2. And then into the second chain from the hook, we're going to place 12 single crochets. Just like before, I'm going to go ahead and mark that first one so that I can see it through the fuzzy. And then our first increase round is just going to be 1 single crochet and then 1 increase. And since we've already done the increase rounds once already while we made the body, I'm just going to go ahead and throw those up on the screen for you guys, and I'll meet back up with you guys once I've done all of the increase rounds. Alright guys, so I'm back. Of course, this is what the head looks like after the first 7 rows of increase rounds. So we are just going to be doing 1 single crochet in each stitch around for rounds 8 through 14. And I'm going to show you guys where to put the safety eyes in and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to be a total of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, a total of 7 rounds where we're just placing 1 single crochet in each stitch around. I'll meet back up with you guys as soon as I'm finished with that part. Alright guys, so I'm back. This is what my head looks like. And first I'm going to show you how to do the eyes. You don't have to do them this way. I'm using safety eyes, but if you wanted to use like French knots, or if you wanted to embroider them, you could do them that way. You can see on the orange one, I used some larger eyes, and then I did a little bit of eye detail by doing the whites of the eye. Same thing with the nose. When we get to the nose, I'm using a safety nose. You don't have to do it that way. You can embroider the nose if you want. But I'm going to show you how I did the nose, or I mean the eyes and the nose. So the eyes, I don't know what size safety eyes these are, to be honest. They're just they are just the largest ones that come in these little Amazon kits. So it's just one of these down here. Actually, I think it's those. I want to say maybe 15 or 16 millimeter. I'm not really sure. Like I said, these kits you can get off of Amazon. I'll link them in the description box below. And I just use the largest of the eyes in these kits. And they do come with safety, or they do come with the safety backings, the washers. So we're going to count down to row in between, the eyes are going to go in between rows 9 and 10. So we're going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I'm just going to poke it through the hole right there. It doesn't really matter where exactly on the head, whether it's centered compared to the back, because the head is being made separate from the body. So we want them 7 stitches apart. So that's going to be, I say 7 stitches. What I mean is 7 holes. So there's a hole here that is kind of hard to see. You can barely feel it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to put it in the 8th hole from this one. So if you look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes, and we put it in the 8th one. Just like that. And that's where your eyes are going to be positioned, is between rows 9 and 10, with a total of 7 stitches apart, or 7 holes in between. And then we're just going to pop these little backs on. Like that. You guys can see they just pop on real easy. And that gives us the eyes. Now, if you're wanting to embroider some eye details, you can do that right now if you want. Or you can wait until the head is stuffed and attached to the body. That's what I like to do. So now that we have our eyes and we have our 7 rows of single crochet, we're going to be decreasing down to 24 stitches. As of right now, our head should be 48 stitches. Our stitch count is 48 stitches, and we are going to be decreasing to, yes, 24. We're decreasing to 24 stitches. And I'm going to go ahead and put those instructions on the screen, and I'll meet back up with you guys once I have completed the head, and then we'll move on from there. Alright guys, so I'm back. This is what my head looks like after my decrease rounds. So I'm fastened off, and I just kind of tucked this yarn tail on the inside. To keep it out of the way, we're going to set the head aside for now. I don't like to stuff my pieces until I get ready to sew them on. So we're going to do the muzzle next. And if you look at this guy here, you can see his little magic ring that the muzzle starts out with. So I'm going to show you a trick to get rid of that little hole where that won't be as visible. Since, well, let's see. I guess it won't. It shouldn't matter too much. Shouldn't matter what color your scrap yarn is. But you're going to take a little bit of scrap yarn from, like I said, it don't really matter what color it is. You're going to take a bit of scrap yarn. I'm going to cut some off of this Caron Simply Soft Cake to show you guys. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cross them over, pinch there, and I'm going to hold it with these two fingers. I'm going to place my hook in the loop, catch that yarn, bring it through the loop, twist, and that's how you would normally make a magic ring. Now, I'm going to take and catch the rest of this yarn over here, and I'm going to pull it through that loop, completely through that loop, and it's going to make a knot. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take the end of the yarn that I'm making the bunny out of, and I'm going to go ahead and put a slip knot in there, just like that. And we're going to be placing 6 single crochets into this magic ring. So we want it to be against that knot, but we don't really want it to go over. Okay, so I've got 6 single crochet into that magic ring. We'll go ahead and pull my hook out. Now, if I pull this yarn here, this tail, it's going to tighten everything up. And because we're using a chenille yarn, we'll be able to hide this yarn on the inside and you won't be able to see it. That's why the color really doesn't matter that much. You can tighten it up there, but if we pull it tight enough, we'll be able to hide it. And we're going to put it on the back of our work for right now. And in round 2, we're going to place 1 single crochet in the first stitch. We're going to go ahead and mark that stitch. And you can see that chenille yarn is covering up this tail. In the second stitch, we're going to go ahead and place 3 single crochet in the next stitch. And then we're going to place 1 single crochet. So that's the sequence that we're following. So for round 3, we're going to do 2 single crochet. And then in the third stitch, which should be the center stitch of your group of 3 here, we're going to place another 3 single crochet all in the same stitch. And then we're going to place another 2 single crochet. So that's a sequence for round 3. And we're going to do that twice in this round. And you can see for some reason I have an extra stitch. That's okay. We're just going to place a single crochet in that stitch. That probably means I got 1 too many stitches in the place. But the idea here is just to get that oval shape. For round 4, we're going to go and place 3 single crochet, and in the center stitch of that group of 3 here, we're going to place 3 single crochets. 3 single crochets, one single crochet in each of the next stitches. And then we're going to start that sequence over, so it'll be single crochets again. And that should position you right at that center single crochet from the previous round so that you can do another set of 3 in that stitch. And then we're just going to finish out the round with some single crochets till we get back to our stitch marker. So this is what our muzzle is looking like. And we're going to do 2 rounds of just 1 single crochet. But before I get to doing that, I'm going to show you in the back where our magic ring is. We're just going to go ahead and tie a knot right here. We're going to just do a double knot real tight like that, and then we can trim those off, and that keeps your magic ring closed compared to this guy that has the little hole there where I did a chain 2 and put the 6 single crochet in there. Compared to this, it just looks a little bit better. So we're gonna go ahead and do, like I said, 2 rows or 2 rounds with just 1 single crochet in each stitch. And I will meet back up with you guys. Okay, so got our nose and our muzzle here. This is what my muzzle looks like. I know it looks a little bit large. So to do the safety nose, what we want to do is we want to try to have this down at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and fasten off, leave a tail for sewing. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch, and then I'm going to leave a longer tail for sewing. I'm just going to chain 1, pull this through there like that. And that's going to be our muzzle. Now, you want to try to make sure that your muzzle is like oval shaped. Obviously that's what we're going for, but when we put our safety nose in, you want to try to center it, because I'm gonna be real honest, I just eyeball it, and I usually put it, I think that's what, row 2 or 3, and I just kind of eyeball it and put it in there. I just try to make it as even as possible between these 2, you know, on the sides or whatever. It looks like it could do with maybe going over 1. If you have to, you can take the head and place it on there, see what it looks like. We're going to be sewing right here along this row around, right around row 10. So if you wanted to take it and hold it up to your face just to check how it will look, you can do that. This muzzle is a little bit different than the orange one. So that's what mine's going to look like. And then I'm just going to pop the back on. Okay guys, so for the ears, we are, I'm going to move this camera a little bit. We're going to chain 2, and then we're going to be placing 12 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. For round 2, we are going to be placing 5 single crochets, and then we're going to do 3 single crochets in 1 stitch. So we got 5 single crochet, and in that sixth stitch we're going to go ahead and place a total of 3 stitches in the same stitch. And then we're going to place another 5 single crochet, and in that last stitch we're going to place 3 single crochet all in the same stitch. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I have marked the center stitch of each of my groups of 3. This will make it easier to place my group of 3 in the next round. So rounds 3, 4, and 5 are sort of repeats of row 2. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be placing single crochets, 1 single crochet in each stitch until we get to this center stitch here. And then in that center stitch, we're going to place 3 single crochets, and that'll be our sequence for rows 3, 4, and 5. Since we've already worked up row 2 in that manner, I'm going to go ahead and just throw those instructions up on the screen. But the idea here is to make, you're making an oval shape, and you want to make sure that you always put your group of 3 single crochets in that center stitch. This is what it looks like after you've done rounds 3, 4, and 5. And since we're not stuffing the rabbit's ear, it's going to flatten out like this, and that gives you that wide bunny ear. We can go ahead and take these stitch markers out. For rounds 6, 7, and 8, we are just placing 1 single crochet in each stitch around. You currently should have 28 stitches in as a stitch count. Alright guys, so this is what our bunny ear is looking like. For round 9, we are going to be placing 5 single crochet, and then we're going to go ahead and place a decrease. And we're going to be doing that all the way around. I've completed that round. It's going to leave you with a stitch count of 24. And we are going to work 3 rows of just 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So that'll be rounds 10, 11, and 12. We're going to do another round of decreases for round 13. This time we are going to be single crocheting 4, and then we'll place another decrease. And then after that we will do another set of 3 rows with 1 single crochet in each stitch. For round 17, we're going to be doing decreases again. This time we are going to be single crocheting 3 and then placing a decrease. Another set of rows that is just 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So this is what it's looking like. At this point you should have 16 stitches in your stitch count. So we're going to do 1 more row of decreases to bring it down to 12. This time we'll be doing 2 single crochet and then a decrease. After that, we are going to do 5 rows of just 1 single crochet in each stitch. So this is what our bunny ear looks like after our 5 rows, after our last 5 rows. And what we're going to do now is we are actually going to turn our work so that our working yarn is behind. If we turn it the other way, our working yarn will be in front of us. So we want to turn it this way so that our working yarn stays behind. And then we're going to go in and we're going to single crochet this piece closed. We're going to go in through this next stitch as well as through this last stitch here that was made. And we're going to flatten it out, and we're going to single crochet this piece closed. And it should be 6 stitches across. And once you get through with that, you can fasten off, leaving a tail for sewing. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and assemble the pieces for the head. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stuff our little head. We've got our head, our muzzle, and our 2 ears. This is what my second ear ended up looking like. I think it turned out really cute. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stuff. I'm not going to lie, these bunnies do take quite a bit of stuffing if you use this particular yarn. Or really any weight 6 yarn, they're gonna be big. These bunny rabbits are pretty big bunny rabbits. I have not measured them. We'll measure them I'll measure them at the end. But they do take a lot of stuffing. So if you're making them to sell, you might want to up the price a little bit. And I am just using bigger chunks of stuffing right now because it's such a large piece. The head is such a large piece that it's not going to matter too much if I use larger chunks of stuffing. If there is areas that need to be filled in after I get the majority of it stuffed, I'll use smaller pieces. We don't want to overstuff. Of course, I like to kind of stuff towards I kind of like to stuff it in the sides so that there's kind of a hole in the center there. And then see what I need to do to fill in that center. But it gives me an idea of kind of how big the head is gonna be. Now, since we are attaching pieces to the head once it's stuffed, we are actually going to be bringing the threads that we're going to be hiding out through this middle piece, which I'll show you guys how to do here in a minute. Like I said, these bunny rabbits do take a lot of stuffing. When we go to stuff the body, y'all are going to see, like, it's a lot. Now, I know that this head looks a little bit big, but if you recall, we did decrease 24 inches for this, down to 24 inches. So actually the body and the head will sew on stitch for stitch. But you do want to check and see like how the shape of your head is. Like right here, I feel like there could be some more right there to kind of round it out. Don't want him to have a strange little bulbous head. But he's looking pretty good. So, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and put this last little bit right in here in the center. And for the moment, that will be fine. Later, he'll probably get a little bit more stuffing just to fill this concave area in. So, next, we are going to get our straight pins. I got these cute little butterfly straight pins off of Amazon. And they come in little pastel colors. So we're going to be doing our nose, our little muzzle next. And we're going to be putting a lot of pins in this nose. Now I am going to put a little bit of stuffing in this nose, but probably it's going to get a little bit more as we're sewing. So I'm going to put just a little bit in there for now. And then I'm going to position the nose between the eyes right there along this line that goes right there between the eyes. If you see this, you can see this line that's right there between the eyes. We're going to position the nose right about there. And I'm going to start sticking my pins in there. Like I said, I'm going to use a lot of these straight pins just to keep it in place. One under here, you can see under here at the bottom, and I'm trying to stick these in at an angle, and I try to go through the stitch, not through the holes. So there's like a hole right here. We want to go through the stitch that we actually made. And I try to usually do, you know, like the 4 sides first, just to make sure that it's on there fairly well. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. I don't know if I'm getting out of frame or not. I hope not, but it is entirely possible. Maybe I can zoom out a little bit while I do this. So while we're sewing, the muzzle can shift quite a bit. That is why I'm using so many straight pins. And I'm also going to use a certain technique to try to help it try to keep it from shifting too much. I don't want it to shift too much from the position that I have it in. So there is a technique that I will show you guys that hopefully will keep it from shifting around too much while we sew around it. So I'm just using this metal, this aluminum tapestry needle. First thing we're going to be doing is we're going to go into the nearest hole, and we're going to come out the bottom of the piece. Now you don't have to use the jewelry pliers. Sometimes I use jewelry pliers just to grab on to the needle. But we're going to go through the nearest hole and down through the bottom. And then we're going to go back up through that same hole. And that is basically just to sort of tack the muzzle down a little bit, where it's not going to go anywhere. In the next stitch, we're going to do the same sort of a thing. We're going to go into this next stitch. We're going to find the nearest hole. Instead of coming out the bottom this time, we are going to go probably up through this. We're going to go up through this one right here. And we're going to catch one of these stitches here. Again, all we're doing is tacking this down right now. And then we're going to go back through this hole here. And then on this side, I think we could do this hole here. And we're going to catch a stitch. We're going to come out in the next stitch where we can catch the very next stitch. So we're just kind of tacking that down, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sew from this point to this point. It doesn't have to be perfect, especially with the chenille yarn. It's going to hide your holes, it's going to hide your mistakes. But the idea in doing this is that we can pull some of these pins out. For example, we could pull this one out. As we get those pins pulled out, eventually we are going to be stuffing a little bit more stuffing in this muzzle because it is understuffed right now. Now this is not the way everybody does their amigurumi sewing. You don't have to do it this way. If you have another way that is more comfortable for you, you are more than welcome to do it that way. But yeah, this is just how I do it to keep the muzzle from moving, is to basically go around and tack it on before even starting sewing. I just kind of loosely tack it. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this guy on until I get to the point where we're going to add stuffing, and I'll meet back up with you. Alright guys, so I actually forgot to film my stuffing the last little bit of the muzzle, but this is what it's looking like. And I'm actually at the last stitch of the muzzle that needs to be sewn down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in that stitch, and I'm going to kind of pull the muzzle over just a little bit. And I'm just going to bring this through out the bottom of the head. And that is my little bunny face. He's got a little bit bigger nose than the orange. Probably when I'm done with this tutorial, we will spend a little bit of time at the end of the tutorial talking about some of the differences between this guy and the orange one that I fudged my way through. So let's do some ears. So the ears are quick and easy. I like to place my bunny ears about 3 stitches out from row 1. I said 3 stitches, I meant 3 rows. So 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna place mine probably about right here. You can do it more or less. Maybe it would be easier if I did the green ones to show you that, or the green ear for that. So 1, 2, 3, I'm probably going to place mine right about here, which, you know, it gives him some long floppy ears, but that'll be the length of his ears. I just like to do 3 rows, and I'm going to be sewing them on in between rows 3 and 4. You don't have to use straight pins for this. I don't usually. I just try to kind of center it the best that I can, and then I go in between right there, and then I'm going to come out, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches away. I'm going to come out after that 5th hole, I guess you would say. After that 5th stitch, I'll come out of that hole right there. And then I'm going to go back through this stitch the other end. And I know that seems strange because there's this huge gap, but we're fixing to sew it up here in a minute. So, like I said, we're working between rows 3 and 4. So we're actually going to be using the holes. We're going to be working in these holes. So we're going to go back into this stitch that we had originally came out of on the head. We're going to come up through the next one, and we're going to catch the next stitch of the ear. I don't know what the names of these stitches are called, in all honesty. Like I said, this is just how I do things. And again, we're going to go into the same stitch that we just left in the head. Go in like that. And then we're going to go into the next stitch of the ear. Again, you don't have to you know, use this stitch or sew it on this way. This is just how I do it. I'm hoping that you guys are going to be able to see all of this on camera. I know I keep getting out of frame, and I do apologize for that. Also, using a bent tip needle does help with the sewing. If you're new to amigurumi, that is something that you should know, that using a bent tip needle does help a great deal with sewing amigurumi. Okay, so here's the last stitch, and we're just going to bring that down, and we're going to go back into this hole that we initially started in, and I'm just going to bring it out the bottom of the head, just like that. Now you can see with bringing the threads out the bottom of the head that the head gets a little bit wonky. It's not shaped like we initially had it. That's okay, because like I said, we're going to add more yarn, or I mean more stuffing to the head. So here is what my bunny is starting to look like. That is the top of his head. I'm thinking it's looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and sew the other one on, and I will meet back up with you guys to show you how to do the whites of the eyes like I did on the... Alright guys, so here's what my bunny looks like. I know it kind of looks funny, like maybe his ears aren't even, but they seem to be pretty even as far as I can tell. This one does hang a little bit lower. That is because the solid yarn is slightly thicker than the multicolored pieces of this yarn. So I have got a piece of Red Heart Super Saver here in the colorway Aaron, which is what I'm going to use for the whites of his eyes. But before I get to that, I am going to take these threads here at the bottom, and I'm going to basically, I'm gonna kind of reshape in his head back the way it should be to the best of my ability. And then I'm going to take these 3 strands of yarn, and I'm just going to knot them together and stuff them into the center of the head. The knotting just helps to, you know, keep it all together. It's no big deal. And I'm just going to stuff all of that down in to the bottom of the head. You can see along the sides there's still some places that need some stuffing that are a little cattywampus, for lack of a better description. But like I said, we'll deal with this concave area in a bit. So to get the whites of the eyes done, we're going to go ahead and thread this little bit of white on here. And I used the off-white color because he does have, you know, like white in the body. So I decided to do the off-white. And we're going to go in through the bottom of the head, and we're going to come out in the hole that is directly below the eye. We're going to in through the head. We're going to go out through the hole that is directly below the eye in the center. If that makes sense. And we're going to pull that through. We're going to leave a tail hanging at the bottom because later we're going to be tying a knot there. And then we're going to stay in frame now. We're just going to go around the eye, and we're going to go into the hole that is directly above, and we're going to go in there. Now we don't want to pull too tightly. If you pull it too tight, this yarn will actually get stuck underneath the eyes. I'm sorry, I keep getting out of frame. I do apologize for that. But we're going to go in through there and out through the bottom. There's probably 100 tutorials out there on how to do this that are much better than my attempt at doing a short tutorial on this. But you don't want to pull it too tight. So there's our little eye, and it'll stay there. You want it tight enough that it goes around the safety eye, but not tight enough that it sinks underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a knot in the bottom. I'm not even going to cut this yarn. I'm just going to go directly over to the other eye and do the same thing. I'm going to go back in through the bottom and come out directly beneath the eye in the hole that's already there between stitches. And then I'm going to go around the eye and come in through the hole directly above it. And again, I'm going to come out the bottom. And I'm going to push this to the side. And again, I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot. Alright, and then I'm just going to go ahead and clip this. And I'm going to tuck that into the center of the head as well. Now, that is what our little bunny looks like so far. I do think that maybe reflecting on what I have right now, I think that maybe I could have done with one less row on the muzzle. His muzzle does seem a little bit long to me, but you know, that's okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of stuffing, and here and there I'm going to fill in the center. reshaping the head the best way I can. If there's any spots around the face or around the outside that needs a little bit more stuffing, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Later when we go to attach the body, we'll also be adding a little bit of stuffing in as we are sewing the neck, and that is to keep the head from being floppy. Although our head and our neck is pretty thick, so it shouldn't be floppy. Alright, so to start the arms, we are going to chain 2, and we're going to be placing 12 single crochet into the second chain from our hook. And then we are going to be starting our increase rounds. Since we have already done that a few times, I'm just going to put the instructions for the first few rounds up on the screen. So this is what it's looking like after the increase rounds. So for rounds 4 through 8, we're just going to be placing 1 single crochet in each stitch. So that is a total of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a total of 5 rows with just 1 single crochet in each stitch. Alright, so this is what it's looking like. For round 9, we are going to do 2 single crochets, and then we're going to do a decrease. And we're going to be doing that all the way around. After that, for rounds 10 through 13, we're going to be placing 1 single crochet in each stitch. So that is, 10, 11, 12, 13, that's 4 rounds. So at this point, you should have a stitch count of 18 stitches. And we are going to start stuffing our arm. You want to stuff the bottom more than you're going to stuff the top. If you overstuff the top of your arms will not lay flat against the body. So it is going to be a kind of stuff as you go situation. But we want this to be good and stuffed, but also still soft, squishy. I could probably put this little bit in here and it'll be fine. So for round 14, we are going to do 1 single crochet and then a decrease. And then after that, we'll be doing another 4 rounds of 1 single crochet in each stitch. So we've got 12 stitches in our stitch count now, and you can see like down here where the stuffing is, it's like you can plainly see. So what we're going to do is we are going to lightly stuff this top section. So not too bulgy, if that makes sense. I don't really know how to describe it, so I'll just show you guys. It's easier if you kind of ball your stuffing up a little bit. So you want it to kind of smoothly decrease with your stuffing to keep its shape. Adding little bits, just little small bits of stuffing. That's much lighter than what is down here. And right there, that kind of last row, we're not going to stuff that at all. Now what we're going to do is we are going to turn our work like we did with the ears, except this time instead of single crocheting the piece closed, we are just going to slip stitch this piece closed. And it will be 6 stitches across. And then you're going to go ahead and fasten off, and that's how you make the bunny rabbit's arms. The first 3 rounds of the legs are exactly the same as the arms. So we're going to start with a chain 2, and then we're going to place 12 single crochets in the second chain from the hook. And then for the legs, we are also going to do an extra round of increases. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those instructions on the screen since we've done the increase rounds several times now. So after those 5 rounds, we are going to be doing a couple of decrease rounds. In this first one, we are just going to be single crocheting 13, and then we'll do a decrease. We're going to do that twice. And the next 2 rows are also decrease rounds. I'm going to go ahead and put those up on the screen. After that, we have a few rows of just 1 single crochet in each stitch around. I'll meet back up with you guys here in a minute when we get ready to do that. So this is what our leg is looking like after the rounds, that first set of decrease rounds. We're going to go ahead and move on to rounds 13 through 15, which are all going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. It's coming along nicely, and we are going to go ahead and stuff this like we did the arm, where we stuff more down here at the bottom than we do at the top. You can do that as you go. I'm going to wait until I do the last round of decreases. Alright, so I just finished my last round, which is round 19 on the leg. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff my leg. And we're going to do it just like we did the arm. Now you should have 18 stitches in your stitch count right now. See, we're going to stuff it a little bit more at the bottom than we do the top. So it should look something like this. So I've actually already cut my yarn, but you don't have to do it that way. We're going to close this up like we did the ears and the arms. This time we are going to be placing 8 single crochets across the top to flatten that out and close it up. Hopefully I've left myself a long enough tail. Okay, so for the tail we are going to be doing 12 single crochet into the second chain from our hook, and then we're also going to be doing a couple of rows of increases. Now I will mention I had to start a second cake of yarn. Alright, so here is what my tail is looking like after the increase rounds. And we are going to go ahead and do 1 single crochet in each stitch around for row 4. And then we're going to be starting our decrease rounds. Alright, so this is what your bunny tail should look like after your decrease rounds. I really like that it just got a little bit of the black and white, and then the yarn changed to the pink. So we are going to go ahead and put a bit of stuffing in the tail, just enough where it'll hold its shape. At this point you should have 12 stitches as a stitch count. And for our last round of the bunny rabbit tail, we are just going to be doing 6 decreases. So it should look something like this. And like we did for the arms, we're actually going to turn this piece like this, and we're going to close this hole up by doing 3 slip stitches. We're going to kind of flatten it out, and then we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and fasten off, leaving a tail to sew our little... Okay, so to start assembling, the first thing we need to do is pull out the body that we've been holding on to and stuff that real good. And then we're going to be using this tail here to sew the head on. And it will be sewn on stitch for stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff my body, and then I'll meet back up with you guys. Alright guys, so I've got my body good and firmly stuffed. Now you can see the head hole looks pretty big compared to the body hole, but as long as we have the same number of stitches, it should be fine. They'll come together. And since they are made separately, we don't have to worry too much about lining it up any particular way, because this is just a pear-shaped body. It'll be the legs and the arms that we have to look at when we go to sew them on. We'll have to sew them on in a particular way. Now in the back of the head, I usually like to start in the back of the head, so mine will probably go on like this, right. It'll probably go on about like that. And I'm just going to take this needle and go in through one of these stitches. I'm going to go under both bars. And then I'm going to come down. I'm going to come down and I'm going to go back in to this stitch here that I was slip stitched in. Into. And like I said, it'll be stitch for stitch. So I don't have to worry too much about it. Now I'm going to go into the second stitch of the body. Pull that up. And then I'm going to go into the next stitch of the head. Hopefully you guys are able to see this on camera. I know it's kind of difficult for me to do this on camera. I've never done it on camera before. Anyways. And then I'm going to come right back out that second stitch. And I'm going to do that all the way around, attaching these stitches on the head to the body stitches. And as I go around, eventually I'll need to add more stuffing. So I'm going to work my way around this, and I'll meet back up with you guys when I get to the point where I have to add some stuffing between the neck and the head. Alright, so I've sewn about halfway, and I've already stuffed a little bit of extra stuffing in here. We're doing this to keep the head from being floppy. This is what the head looks, or where the seam looks like so far. Here and there you can see a little bit of the pink, but that's okay. I think that's okay, just because the two halves are different, and it plays really well into the whole dragon fruit theme, I think. I don't know, but as I go around, I'll be putting a little bit more stuffing, and when I get over here this way, I'll be stuffing it in towards that direction, just trying to fill it out so the head is not floppy. Alright, so I've got my head sewn on. Something that I do want to point out with the chenille yarn, when you sew with the chenille yarn, or at least this particular one, the Premier Fruits, this will happen. And it does make sewing a little bit harder, but it's not impossible. That's why I singe the ends, because if this end wasn't singed, this stuff would just be coming off everywheres. So now that I've got it sewn, I'm just going to take the end of this yarn and I'm just going to weave it in and out of the toy to hide that tail. It doesn't matter where it comes out at. I'm just going to pull, and I'm going to hide as much of this in there as I possibly can. I'm not pulling too tight. You know, and I'm going to go back into the hole that I came out of and go across, maybe over here, if I can get it over that far. And I'm just going to hide as much of this yarn inside the head as I can. The idea in doing that is, you know, we're not placing any knots, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off right here. We're not placing any knots in the yarn, so if it's got a long tail, it shouldn't come unsewn. But this is what the bunny looks like with his body sewn on. We're going to do arms next. So his two arms, I like to sew about one row down in between. This is where we made the seam. You can kind of see it because of the pink yarn there. And then we're going to skip this row and we're going to sew in between this row and this row. That's where I like to do the arms. You can do them further down if you like, but I do like to do it about right there. And you're going to try to center them, you know, you want to sew like right where the ears might hit the shoulders. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew them like I did the bunny ears, or like I did the ears, where I went in and then I came back out so that they would be tacked down. If you want to use straight pins, you can, but it's not an absolute necessity. But I'm just going to come out right there. And I'm going to go ahead and sew the arms on just like that. And you can see, like, if I didn't like how this was, maybe I thought they were too far back or whatever, or too far forward, I can actually pull it out. But it is a good way to see what they look like. Alright, so this is what my bunny's looking like with his arms attached. We are going to go ahead and start doing the legs. I'm not really sure how I'm going to show that in frame because he is getting so big. But Usually I like to do the limbs or the legs. Maybe you guys can see this. I don't know, he's gotten so big. I like to do them around between rows 4 and 5 probably. His legs are a little bit shorter, so I'll probably want to attach them right around here, which I think is between rows 4 or 5, maybe rows 3 and 4, depending on what it looks like. And we're just going to sew them on like we did the arms and the ears. So I will meet back up with you guys. I'm actually going to put this one on this side and this one on this side, since this arm is all white and this one has some color. I'm going to switch it up a little bit and put the all green one on this side. But yeah, I'll be back up with you once I get them attached, and then we'll move on to the tail. Okay, so for the tail, what I usually do, I just kind of eyeball where I think it would look best. In this case, I'm thinking right about here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's about between rows 11 and 12 is where I'm going to place my tail, and you're going to go ahead and sew it on like you normally would. You're just going to, those 3 slip stitches is what you're going to use to sew into. Now, if you want it to be more secure, you can sew into other stitches. Sorry about that. Like I said, he's not really fitting in frame very well these days. Yeah, I'm going to do either 10 and 11, between 10 and 11, or possibly 11 and 12. But somewhere's right around in this area is where I'm going to do it. And I usually just sew through those 3 slip stitches, these 3 slip stitches right here. And that's usually secure enough that it stays in there. So I'll be back up with you guys when I get that done. Alright guys, so that is how you make my version of the fruit bunny that is on the Premiere website. I will link that pattern in the description box below if you want to check it out. This one is the one that I made through using that pattern, but there were some spots in there that just were very hard to understand, which is how this guy came about. I think I mentioned that at the very beginning of the video. You can see there are some major differences in between these guys. For one thing, mine used a little bit more yarn, and he is about half a head taller than the orange one. His nose is a little bit bigger. His ears are a little bit wider and longer. His body is more elongated compared to shorter and chubbier if you look at the body. I chose to stick with just a more pear-shaped rather than a rounded, chubby body. I quite like him. They're both very cuddly sized. As far as measurements go, let me get my tape measure real quick. So from the top of the head to the bottom, to his bottom, is about 15 inches. It's about 15 inches. 14 if you don't pull it this way. So he's about 14 inches from top of his head to his bottom. And then the orange one is about an inch shorter, so about 13 inches from top of the head to the bottom. Now, some things I would probably change that I did, because this is the first draft of a pattern that I based off of somebody else's pattern. Some things that I would change in my next one is, I would probably use a 5mm hook instead of a 5.5. I'd probably, go down half a size, just because these colored portions of Premier Parfait Fruit are a little bit thinner than the solid colors. And so, again, just like with the orange one, there are a few spots that you can see where you can actually see through the stitches. I had that same problem with the orange one as well, in the spots that were like flecked, but I didn't have that problem with the solid areas, so I think it's a yarn thing. So probably in the future, when I go to make one of these, I will probably shrink down, switch my hook down to a 5mm hook. Also, something else that I would consider doing, next time I make one of these, I will probably omit the second round of single crochet in the muzzle. I feel like that made his muzzle too long. To me, it is almost doggish or foxish. Like, I could see taking this pattern with this particular muzzle and adding pointed ears on it and calling it a fox, because I just feel like his muzzle is just a little bit too large. You know, but overall, I really like how this guy turned out. I love that his ears are a little bit wider and a little bit longer. Y'all let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think? Is he proportionate? Should his ears have been longer? Because I did consider making his ears a couple more rows, to make them, fall a little bit longer. The only thing I'm not really happy as far as construction is I did 2 rounds on the single crochet, instead of just 1, and I think really I should have just done the 1. But anyways, I love my fruit bunnies. They are definitely a good size for cuddling. Also, another thing I noticed is I stuffed this one more firm than I stuffed this one. He's kind of soft and squishy compared to this. This guy's a little bit harder. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I do not frequently design or, do amigurumi tutorials. Let me know what you think. I love that his leg just happened to get a little bit of each color. And then this one had the little spot of white. Where was it? Was it his arm? There was another spot. Oh, his neck got just a tiny bit of the pink after the rest of it had been green and white. But yeah, that's my tutorial. I hope you guys love them as much as I do. For sure, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe if you are not already subscribed. Like this, share it out. Easter is coming. And I do think this would be a good pattern to work up as a solid bunny rabbit. So yeah, for sure. Anyways, I am going to let you guys go for now. I've kept you for probably close to 2 hours now with this tutorial. But, yeah, I'm super proud of myself. And I love my little bunnies. I'm going to have to make 6 more. 1 in every color. Thank you so much for all the support and for watching. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.